My name is Arthur Lauren Maltby III, commonly known as Larry. Been that since I was a kid. My dad was in art, so that took care of the Arthur. Military didn't like me being called Larry, so the colonels called me Art. But after I got out of the Army, I decided, I prefer Larry. And I got a username that's A. Larry Mall, so that's how I do it. I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana, during one of the stops that my Navy dad made there. That's where he married my mother. I was born in March of 1944. I was through 12 years of high school. I was in 11 different schools due to military transfers. So it wasn't very long that I was there.
Kind of all over the country, all over the world?
All over the world. Well, can't say all over the world because it was all over the country, and then Europe, Italy, and Turkey. And then my own military career took me the other direction, Okinawa, and then 13 months in Korea. I ended up back in Pensacola. I was working with the city of Baton Rouge as assistant to the personnel administrator over there. After I got out of the Army, that's the profession I went into, was public sector human resources. And I ended up here because I applied for a job as the director of county civil service system. And months later, I suddenly get a call, said, "Are you still interested?" And I said, "Yes. Would you come over for an interview?" And so I did. They said, "We can't pay anything." That's fine. I'll spend the weekend with my parents. Brought one of my sons over with me, and I went for the interview and then drove back home on Sunday afternoon thinking, now what am I going to do? That went well. And about 2 weeks later, I got a phone call about, would I accept the job? And I said, well, let's consider what you're going to want to pay me. And we did that over the phone real quick, and I said, yeah, I'll do it. And moved here on May 1st of 1984. I got involved with the credit union while I was in Baton Rouge. It basically was the same size credit union as the Escambia County Employees Credit Union at that particular point in time. They did not have or did not engage a CPA firm for an annual internal audit. The individual was who did it at the time was the business manager for the Department of Public Works over there. And because it was a growing credit union, there was a growing desire on the part of the board members to engage in audit, a real audit. And so they came to talk to me about becoming the chairman of the very first supervisory committee over there, and that's how I got involved. And then when I got here in '84, I was not going to run for a position on the board unless somebody was getting off, and I think it was 2 years later somebody decided to get off, and so I threw my name in the hat and got elected to the board on Escambia County, and I've continuously served ever since, even through the merger with Gulf Winds.
And how do you think that your experience growing up and traveling everywhere and your own military experience kind of inform what you do as part of the board?
Well, that's a difficult question because the negative is I don't have the same kind of roots growing up with classmates in one particular jurisdiction geographically like most folks do. But I wouldn't trade the world experiences that I got, the places I got to see. I still like to travel, do that as often as I can during the course of the year. And I think certainly having a perspective on the rest of the world provides me with other kinds of insights into what goes on. Academically, I chose to make sure that I went through college, used the GI Bill to get graduate degrees, to prepare myself for whatever came. If I chose to get out of the public sector, I would have an advanced degree that will allow me to transition into the private sector. So I've got all of this in the background, education and the traveling experiences, I think, that has provided me with a greater opportunity to see a vision for the service that we provide to our members through a credit union.
Let me ask something. From a historical perspective, tell us about the merger, how that came about, the Escambia into, who contacted who first, or do you know how much?
I'm not sure exactly who contacted who first. I think it was Chris Rutledge, CEO here at Gulf Winds, contacted Penny Wernicke, who was our CEO at Escambia County. And that had, kind of an informal discussion, and Chris had prepared a document of advantages, disadvantages, pros, cons kind of thing in terms of whether a merger should be considered. One day out of the blue, Patty gave me a call and said she would like to meet with me after work to discuss an issue with me. And we did, and she brought it up to me, and my general approach to things tends to be as a devil's advocate, not immediately for anything, but asking questions on the negative side of the equation, hopefully to try and balance out information both sides. And we talked for probably an hour and a half about it. And at that time I told her, I said, well, it sounds good to me, but it's up to the board. And so I said, as far as I'm concerned, go ahead and present it to the board. And that was done. Chris came, mentioned it, discussed it with the board, presented it to the whole board. They decided it was a good idea. My perspective was that the directors of Escambia County Employees Credit Union, I felt, and many of them also felt similarly, that we were kind of handcuffed with a rather fixed body of membership, that we weren't able to expand to the extent where we could provide more services to the members, which included, arranging different branches or having other branches and so forth to make contacts. Escambia County employees are spread out north to south. And certainly joining Gulf Winds allowed us that particular opportunity to provide more services to our then members with Escambia County. And there were a couple of the older members, and I say older members not necessarily by age, but were familiar with or had been a part of the initial establishment of the Escambia County Employees Credit Union that were concerned about joining a federally chartered credit union, because Gulf Winds had become federally chartered at that time. And I said, that's no problem. When I got started, I was working with a federally chartered credit union in Baton Rouge. And quite frankly, yeah, there's some differences in legislation, but there's enough parallels that it was never a problem. And so I persuaded him, when we actually had a membership meeting to vote yay or nay. I knew that question was coming up, and I tried to think back, just how many years have I done this now? I'm thinking that it's 5 years since the merger. It could be 6 years. And the Escambia County Board, basically by secret ballot, voted which 2 directors would move forward with the merger. And myself and an individual who had been one of my own employees with County Civil Service were the 2 individuals voted to move forward. And I had the first term was a 3-year term, which is a normal term, and he took one that was then for a 2-year term to continue a staggering of terms on the board. And so I've already served that, and I'm 2 years into this one, so that probably means I've been here 5 years. Total of 27.
Well,
Not counting time with the supervisory committee back in Baton Rouge. Oh, that's a difficult. How things changed. For one, the membership is quite a bit more technologically savvy. For a while, I would have thought that our members would have gone into such technology as bill pay over the internet, being able to use the website to get information, to arrange loans. 15 years ago, I never would have expected that. And with all the training I've actually had in the credit union, going to conferences and conventions, you learn an awful lot, that things just aren't always the way they appear to be. We're finding more and more seniors are allowing themselves the opportunity to use their computers in ways that 10 years ago they never would have thought possible. I think the youth side of the equation is where our greatest puzzle is, if you will, because they don't necessarily believe in brick and mortar buildings like our seniors do. Even though the seniors are embracing computers on an ever increasing basis, the young have done that for years. And so you have to make things match what they feel they need by way of a financial institution. And many of our youth, and I guess this might be more of a personal and private opinion, don't think about tomorrow as much as they think about today. And with smartphones and computers, everything seems to be about today and not tomorrow. So I think that's one of the areas that where credit unions have to provide a basis for teaching our young how to think about tomorrow beyond the access that they have with their smartphones and their portable laptops, tablets, what have you. Well, we have traditionally we've been involved, sometimes on a larger basis, sometimes on a smaller basis. For the second year in a row now, we as a board have accepted the staff's recommendation to be a sponsor for the DeLuna Fest out on the beach. It's a great marketing tool. You put your name out there in front of people. You provide, giveaways that because essentially it's a younger crowd, depending upon the artists that will be there. Now, I myself am not a music festival type of person, although I do like music. I dropped it. Plus, we've gone into a community cares. We've, on a hit or miss basis, funded various kinds of social kinds of contributions in the past, and I think we're trying to become more focused on how we do it. As long as I've been with this board now, the 5 years, we seem to be more in tune with trying to do things that are directed towards the youth or community, because there is a tremendous need here in the community there are a lot of issues dealing with young people, and to the extent that we can get involved, like with the Miracle League. One of our directors, had a direct contact with them, and so we've been, in a way, part of a sponsor for the Miracle League. Part of my employment history was with United Cerebral Palsy, so a lot of the clients at UCP actually participated in the Miracle League, and for having that kind of an opportunity in the community and Gulf Winds being a part of it, I think that speaks tons of where we are as a credit union in support of the Escambia, Santa Rosa, Escambia, Alabama community as a whole. These guys have been together a long time. There's no question at all about that. When you got at least 3 members who have served this credit union 45 years plus, they've been together in the good times, have been together in the bad times, and have come through it by working together. They're tremendous as directors, but as also mutual friends. Now, as an outsider coming in, my friend George, we were welcomed with open arms, and we feel a part of it. I'm speaking for George now myself, but we were welcomed, and I guess as a director, I knew the direction that Gulf Winds was the same direction that I wanted to go in with Escambia County. I had, quite honestly, decided that I was going to drop off the board with Escambia County. Because I thought that at that point in time it needed new thinking, new people, new blood. I am not in favor of term limits, never have been. I don't care what level of government or any other board. I think that you lose too much expertise if you impose arbitrarily term limits and don't recognize the contributions of individuals there. There's many ways to replace them. And you don't have to impose strict limitations in order to do that. And these guys have worked well together, like I said, many, many years. And I'm not the junior most member of this current board in terms of my service. So, no, we work together, we can disagree together, but we come out, you know, as friends. Oh, I like to expand our footprint in the community. I'd like to expand the services that we provide to our members in terms of services that are needed by our members, not just to create services that are services, because certainly that you can, you know, extend yourself too far. The economy forces one to, I hate to, you know, use it because it was a government phrase all the time, do more with less, but businesses had to do the same thing for a long period of time, and they're still having to do it. I think with those kinds of constraints, there's still a place for us to have an impact within the community. And as long as I feel that way, and as long as I feel that that is what is being accomplished, then I will continue to serve. Because we have a very good, fantastic, excellent, and all the other superlatives you can heap on the poor man, Chris Rutledge is an outstanding CEO. He's one who keeps the board informed, both the positives and the negatives. And he's willing to bite the bullet when necessary, decrease costs. And we can see that, but at the same time, we're not afraid to increase a cost where it's warranted. I think that, you know, if it was a situation where there was a moderate or a weak CEO, that might not happen. You have to have a strong, forward-thinking CEO, and Gulf Winds is very fortunate to have that in Chris Rutledge. And I don't see us changing anything there soon at all, because he speaks in tune to the board speaks in tune to the CEO, and it seems to be a very compatible arrangement. With Escambia County, they never went anywhere, never learned anything. These were old school people just, you know, stuck in their boxes, and I had to get them out of the box. I remember the first time I said there's a conference in Biloxi. I think it's an appropriate training conference. We ought to make funds available to go do it. What? We can't do that. We're not big enough. I said, yes, we are. So myself and one other director went over there. They didn't put us in a conference hotel. They had us walk 2 blocks to go attend the sessions because they were saving money. I said, that's just not the way it's done. These guys have had the opportunity, and I know economies of scale dictates a lot of what can be done, but it's a process you should never stop learning. I was a public administrator. If the minute I stopped trying to learn, I was dead. And I think it's too often that's what happens. No matter where you are, you stop learning. And I think you need to continue to learn until the day you die.